It's amazing. Francis Xavier Maguire, the kid from Queens. My father was the original Archie Bunker. And it took me so many years to get here. And somebody asked me the last time I was here, what did you experience in Ireland? And I said to the people who asked me that question, I said, what I really did experience was that I became aware of the fact of my Irishness. Now before we start out this morning, we got some pretty serious things to talk about. So I'm not going to give you this, you know, it's all this positive thinking. No one is going to eliminate the realities that we have. But it does have a lot to do with connecting the head with the heart. I sold chicken in a cardboard box. My boss was a 70-year-old man with a 6th grade education. And he built the fastest growing company on the entire New York Stock Exchange. Now how do you like that? 6th grade education from Corbin, Kentucky, wearing a silly little white suit. And look what he did. And then I came back, I wound up working with Fred Smith in Memphis, Tennessee. Now I got to tell you something, folks. Memphis, Tennessee is not Dublin. I mean, most people go to Memphis for Lent. and I got fired from Kentucky Fried Chicken because the new guy came along, they bought us. So you know what happens. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out, right? So I'm sitting down there in Louisville, Kentucky, feeling sorry for myself. You know, the Irish, and you know this, we are very good at throwing pity parties. I mean, it is so true. Pity parties. So I was having a big one. Louisville, Kentucky, no job. You gotta be joking. And I get this call from this fellow, and he says, are you the Frank Maguire, used to be the head of marketing at Kentucky Fried Chicken? I said, yeah, that's me. He said, my name is Fred Smith, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm thinking about starting up a little company. And I'd like you to come down, I want to talk to you about it, would you mind? So like I say, you know, when you're out of work, you'll go anywhere, right? So I got in the car and I drove down to Memphis, Tennessee, and he met me at a small Holiday Inn, and we're sitting at the table, and he's got this napkin laid out on the table, and he puts the dot in the middle and draws this, you know, the spokes, right? And he says, oh, Fred, let me get this right. I want to make sure I understand you. You want to pick up tiny little packages in the middle of the night, 50 pounds or less? Yeah, that's right. And you want to bring them to Memphis? He says, yeah, that's right. I said, well, that's what I thought you said. I said, then you want to ship them around and you want to launch them the next morning and let them go back to where they need to be delivered. You got it. No, I won't tell you the exact words. I said to him, I said, Fred, that's very interesting. But that's the dumbest blank idea I've ever heard in my life. And he looks at me, you know what he said to me? He says, any dumber than selling chicken in a cardboard box? We started a company, the largest venture capital company ever started in 1973 in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, that's just to set the tone for you. We lost $1 million a month for 32 months. It was all venture capital. I learned a lot about venture capitalists in those days. And let me give you the Maguire formula for dealing with venture capitalists. And you listen to me because this is true. If you're going to borrow bucks, borrow big bucks. Listen, that's true. $52.5 million we borrowed. So if you're going to borrow bucks, borrow big bucks. Because then when things go wrong, and they will, you got partners. Now you see, it's all a matter of connecting this with the realities of it being out there. There are other companies, there are other countries that are doing it perhaps a little better than we are, but the fact of the matter is, we're the only Ireland that exists on this land. And look what happened to us. Adam, in 30 years we became a verb. People don't say ship it to me. They say FedEx it to me. Now you talk about the turnaround. You talk about dealing with very, very difficult times. And look, folks, if you were expecting, maybe this illusionist that's coming on the 4th of December, maybe we can get him to make the recession disappear. But as I see it right now, we have a great opportunity. Okay, shake your head. You're saying, oh God, let's get the hell out of here. Here's another one of these motivational speakers. I'm not a motivational speaker, I'm a validational speaker. And I'm here to validate the fact that you are Irish. And there are people all over this world. My father used to say to me, Francis, there's only two kinds of people in the world. Those that are Irish and those that want to be. Now, look, I'm telling you folks, I'm glad to hear you smiling and I'm glad to hear you laughing. But it's true, David. There's something special about us. My grandpa Maguire from Fermanagh. My grandpa Harrington from Kilkenny. My grandmother used to call him a Kilkenny cat. I never knew what the hell that meant. But I'm Irish, and I'm proud of it. There is something special about us. And the last thing you want to do is jump in the pot with all those other turkeys who are having pity parties. When I first met Colonel Sanders, I went to his office, and he's sitting there signing little cards for the kids. Colonel Sanders, you know, he used to have pockets full of it. Pass them out, you know. So I walk in the office to say hello, and he says, "What's your name?" I said, "Colonel, I'm Frank Maguire. What do you do here?" I said, "I'm the new Senior VP of Marketing, Colonel." He said, "Sal." I mean, this is quite a meeting, you know. I'm a young guy, and he's telling me to sit down. So I sat down, and I see the sign behind his desk, "Opportunity is nowhere." So I said, "Colonel, what's with the sign?" He says, "What do you mean, what's with the sign?" I said, "What are you talking about, opportunity is nowhere?" He says, "That's not what it says." This 80-year-old man, 70-year-old man, is telling me that that's N-O-W-H-E-R-E is not what it says. I says, "Colonel, I went to the university. The Jesuits taught me how to spell." And he says to me, "Well, look closer." Now here, my friends, I want you to look closer at the situation that we're experiencing right now. The Colonel looks at me and he says, "You see nowhere, I see now here." My friends, I know it's not easy to internalize, but I want you to know, Dublin, that your opportunity is now here. As you can see, I have chronological credibility. I've been around. Now what do you see? You see the word impossible? Or do you see the word I'm possible? It's just how you see it. You know, at Federal Express, when we finally got off the ground, 60% of our revenue was generated by documents. I have to remember, back in the States, in the early 70s, the Postal Service, thank God for the Postal Service, it took them a month to get a letter from one place to another. And we come along with this idea. Boy, you talk about being at the right place at the right time. So there we are, getting things there absolutely, positively overnight. We changed the way the world does business. Now what am I talking to you about? I'm not talking about New York City or these other places where these characters are. I'm talking to you about Memphis, Tennessee, about Louisville, Kentucky. I'm talking to you about small businesses. The first night we started Federal Express, may I be happy to tell you, we were called the Dirty 30. And if we couldn't get arrested, everything we touched turned to, well, you know. We had this 60% of our business coming in through documents. How would you like to view what happened to us that morning, on a Saturday morning, when we got up and opened the paper, and there was a new product being introduced by Sears called the fax machine. Can you imagine that? The fax machine is going to take away 60% of our revenue? Now what did we do? We did something that you small business owners, and you big guys like Dell and some of the others that are here, I'm glad to see you. But I want to tell you something, it's an attitude situation. And I don't mean an attitude saying, yeah, 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 you know, let's go. Hooray for us. No. Reality says we got to face up to the issues that are confronting us today. Now that's it. Henry Ford said, and this is key. Mr. Ford said when he started his motor company, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Now let me ask you a question. As we sit here this morning, with Ireland in a big pity party, seems to be getting better right now, but I'll tell you now, let me ask you this. Do you believe you can turn this around? You don't have to raise your hand and you don't have to shake your head. Just think about this. As you stand here this morning with me, talking about a guy who sold chicken in a box and delivered packages from Memphis, and also who worked on the staff of the first Catholic to become president, John Kennedy. I mean, you know, we did impossible things. So don't tell me you can't do it. Tell me you will do it. Look, as directly as I can tell you, I don't want you to get involved in the business community of Dublin. Don't get involved. Get committed. Now you know the difference between involvement and commitment? When you have your breakfast tomorrow morning, you look down at the plate with your bacon and eggs. The chicken was involved. The pig was committed. Be aware of how fortunate you are to be here in Ireland. Be aware of how significant the Chamber of Commerce of Dublin is. There's more power, Paul, in this room to turn around the entire economy of Dublin. But we just can't sit around and think about it and get involved. We need to become committed. Now there's the question I'm asking you. There are three issues that I'm going to be speaking about in my presentations down in Galway and tonight at the court. What's the name of the court?
Berkeley.
Huh?
Berkeley Court.
Okay, I didn't hear it. Berkeley, okay. You want to come over. We'll get more into specifics, okay, about how you can do this. But you're not going to get any secret formula. You're not going to get any magic. You're not going to get any illusions. My friends, let me be honest with you. We have a tough time ahead. So what the hell is more important than fixing it? Nothing worthwhile doing isn't tough. That's the whole idea. I look at the current, he says that opportunity is now here. I believe in all opportunity is now here for Ireland to regain the top of the mountain, because there's something special about us. Now, if you don't believe that, if you're not passionate about what you do, not feeling sorry for yourself, but if you don't have passion in your heart. General Schwarzkopf said to me one time when I met him in Hawaii, he looked at me and he said, "Francis, you know what's missing today in corporate America?" I said, "I'd be interested to know what you think, Colonel." I mean, General. Colonel Sanders, General Schwarzkopf. He says, "What's missing today in corporate America?" Now you translate that to Ireland. What's missing today is leadership. Leadership. Here we are, a room full of leaders. If you want to be. And then he looks at me and he says, and leadership has everything to do with character, not competency. Let me give you my secret formula. We got to link the head with the heart. We'll never get out of this if we just think we can think our way out of it. We'll never get out of it if we think we can just feel good about ourselves. That stuff helps. But to connect this with this, and for you to go back to your companies and to show the people who work for you the challenges that we have. It's time to get our management team on its feet. Get them on their toes. Let them know that we will be doing the hard stuff. The A, B, C, the budgeting, the inventory control, counting the numbers. We got to do that. But here's your message I want you to take back. Please, when you get back to your people, I want you to get them around you and convince these managers that work for you that we shall prevail. That's it. 60% of the business out. The economy turned down. We kicked the tires. We reinvented ourselves. David, we came over here to Europe. We were so sure that we knew everything. We were riding the crest that you were riding for all these past few years. And we got here, and we built a hub. We spent $900 million because we knew that we knew. Oh yeah? We didn't get a single customer in Europe. So I came over and I did a little deep research. And I said to the people, I said, how come you're not calling us? Don't you know we're Federal Express? Well, what happened was after we did some deep research, we found out that there was an awful lot of companies in places like Germany who didn't want anything to do with a company whose first name was Federal. Good Lord. I mean, can you imagine that? And back down in Latin America, same thing. Absolutely, positively overnight, we told them. And they looked at us and said, mañana. Meant nothing to them. So, we come back with this big issue of Federal Express not being open to the international business, as you well know probably, because now we just fly the big ocean. We don't do a lot of stuff internally in Europe. These people, and we decided, you know, that this is what we were going to do. We went back to the board meeting. I was sitting in the board meeting, one of these moments in your life that you don't know what the hell you were saying, but you said it and you're glad you did later, because you still have a job. So what I did was this. They're talking about the fact that, how are we going to do this? What can we do? I mean, Federal Express is never going to get off the ground in Europe or in Latin America. And all of a sudden, the boss upstairs, the big conductor, pulls puts a crazy idea in my mind. And I said to him, I know you reason, okay? And you want to use this kind of reasoning. Don't be afraid of how accurate or how radical it is. So, good old Francis Xavier, this is like 20 years ago, acknowledges the chairman. He said, yeah, Frank. I says, well, you know, to me, there's only one solution. He says, what? We got one of the greatest brands in the world. We're like Virgin. And I said, well, you know, one of the things we could do, hold on to your coats, folks. They said, what? I said, why don't we change the name of the company? They looked at me like I was crazy. Now this is how extreme it was for me. And this is how extreme it may be for you right now. I'm talking to you about the significance of some of the decisions you're going to have to make. So they said, what do you mean change the name of the company? We got the greatest brand in the world. I said, wait a minute. What do the people who do business with us call us? FedEx, right? So why don't we change the name of the company to FedEx? Now those people who do business with us will never know anything changed. And the people who we want to do business with us will have no problem with Federal. And we changed the name of the company. What used to be Federal Express is now FedEx. Okay? You see the significance of what I'm telling you? This is no time for shallow thinking. We're going to get together, communicate with each other. I believe with all my heart that communications is the critical test of the modern world. And there are companies over here, and there's companies right here in Dublin who have that same opportunity. We have got to communicate. What do you mean communicate? Well, communicate to me means message sent, message received, and message responded to. Ireland, it's time to communicate. As a matter of fact, here's a little secret from Francis Xavier. You cannot not communicate. You do it by your presence, you do it by your absence. You do it by your words, you do it by your silence. Hear it. You do it by your actions and your attitudes. Now here's my point, and God knows you've learned this lesson in recent years. You may not always do it well, but you always do it. Come on, Dublin. Let's put up the banner and communicate with the world. Show up. Have that attitude. Be passionate about what you're doing. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing this very day, then go do something else. Life is too short to squander your day, your life. Now, I'm not talking to you this morning as a group of how many we have in this room. I'm talking to you personally. Greg, between me and you, between 4 eyes. Oh, that's just 8 eyes. That's the key, Gene. What I'm talking to you about this morning, as a group, it's important, but as an individual. This can be the greatest corporate opportunity that's ever been put in front of every one of you. And like I'll tell you, if you come to our meetings while I'm in town and down in Galway, there's a pony in here someplace. You heard about the kids, right? The 2 twins that were born? They were twins. One was a total cynic, and the other was a total pessimist. I mean, an optimist. So the father went out the night before their 15th birthday, and he bought some presents. And he put them on the dresser of his cynical son. Then, He went out in the barn and got a whole pile of manure. And he dumped the pile of manure right there at the foot of the bed of his optimist son. Next morning he goes up and he looks in the door of his cynical son, and he sees the kid saying, "Oh, this is awful. I hate this. I can't sit. This will never work. Oh, look at this. This is stupid." The father was so crushed. And he walked across the hall and he peeked into the room of his optimist son. And there's the kid at the foot of his bed, on his hands and knees, digging into the dung, saying, "There's a pony in here someplace." Here's what I want you to do. Let me give you the recipe. Here's the recipe. I want each of you in this room today to stage 3 meetings in the next 6 months. Give time between them. And there's only one item on the agenda. Meeting number 1. Now, let me preface this by saying to you, the biggest thing that we have never done and learned about is to listen, right? I mean, that's the biggest problem we have. We don't listen to our kids, we don't listen to our wives, we don't listen to our employees, we don't listen to our customers. It's time to learn to listen. Now take those 6 letters and jot them down on a piece of paper in front of you. L-I-S-T-E-N. You got it? What's another word in there? Do you see it? L-I-S-T-E-N. Listen.
Silent.
S-I-L-E-N-T. Who said that? She's listening. That's true. That's the first woman who's ever gotten that. Congratulations, my dear. But here's the point. If you will practice listening, and you'll have to practice it because it doesn't come easy, especially if you're in a position of authority. So here's what you need to do. Have a meeting. First meeting, the agenda is this. What are we doing around here in your company? What are we doing around here we shouldn't be doing anymore? And then listen. Listen to your people. If you don't listen, they won't speak. But you have to give them an indication that you're listening to them, your customers. Second meeting, 2 months later. What are we doing around here we should be doing better? Shh. Listen. It's not always the CEO who knows. The men and women of Federal Express who drive those trucks and answer those phones, they know. And we've always asked them those questions. What are we doing around here we shouldn't be doing anymore? We used to be counting the packages manually. And one of our employees comes in, he said, "Hey boss," I said, "Yeah." He says, "I got something I want to ask you." His wife says, "You been to the supermarket lately?" I said, "Well, actually, no. I mean, yeah, I go once in a while. But, you know, Carm's the Italian cook." And he says, "Did you ever see how they now price these things? They scan them." I said, "What?" He says, "Why don't we scan the packages?" So we eliminated an entire department of people who were working manually, lifting packages, checking out where they were going, and throwing their backs out, and we scanned them. Savings to the company? Crazy idea, but we saved millions and millions of dollars. How about you? What are you doing around your place that you could be doing better? Shh, listen. Number 3, and we'll get into a lot more of this in great detail, management and leadership. But both subjects, they're very different. The last meeting is, what aren't we doing around here that we should be doing? That's the question. When that fax machine came out, People, we were going nuts. We thought it was over. Huh? Like maybe a few people in this room. Well, it was nice while it lasted, but it's gone. Well, guess what? One of our people said, well, wait a minute. First of all, if we're going to lose all that document, we don't have to worry about it. It's not going to happen for a long time. Today, we need to kick the tires and come up with a brand new product line. And I'm sitting there trying to be quiet, you know, I'm silent. So I said, like what? He says, well, you know, nobody in the world is better at us at logistics. Federal Express has come from a PUD, pickup and delivery, to a logistics company, to an information company, and on and on and on. We bought Kinko's, which is a company in the States that does a lot of printing and things like that. And, okay, I could keep you here all day, and I'm not going to do that. I promise you. I just want you to know. I just want you to know that this is a great moment of opportunity. And every single one of you, as I talk to you and look into your eyes, it's the light behind your eyes. Schwarzkopf said that to me. Leadership has everything to do with character, not competence. And Maguire's absolutes, which at this stage don't quite meet the limits of Einstein's theory, but they're immutable laws. And here they are. Take them from me and put them in here. These are the Maguire absolutes. Great organizations are not defined by wages and working conditions. What defines a successful organization or relationship are three spiritual qualities. And what are they? Feelings. Now ask yourself the question, how do you feel about where you are today? Number two, attitude. What's your attitude? You choose your attitude, don't you? Hell, I was with Colonel Sanders on his 80th birthday when he walked into a bank and got a 30-year mortgage. Hey, that's attitude, folks. And I'm asking you what your attitude is. Feelings, attitudes, and relationships. When you up on my website, and I hope we'll stay in touch, because I really want to be helpful, you will see a picture there, and I'll tell you the story behind it before we leave. Number one, I'm talking to 5,000 sheikhs in Dubai. Now these are people who want to cut each other's heads off, right? I mean, this is not a very happy crew of people, you know? And I'm up there on the stage. I did the feelings thing. That didn't go over too well. I did the attitude thing. That went over great, because they think they own the world. In fact, I think they do. But the relationship thing, I was not about to let them get away with it. So I looked at them. Buckminster Fuller used to say, we're all on this spaceship Earth together, and there are no passengers. Everybody is crew. You hear that? Everybody in this room is part of the crew of Dublin, of the Chamber. And I want you to know, it would be just wonderful if every single one of you could get someone other than yourself to join the Chamber. Let's use the Chamber as the central point of the expansion of the feelings for Dublin, for Ireland, the attitude. Let's kick some butt and take some names. Let's not sit back and wait for the world to come to an end. You know, there's three kinds of people in the world. You know about that, don't you? There's those people who make things happen, those people who watch things happen, and then the other group, those folks who stand around and say, what happened? Well, we know what happened. So I said to them, and I want to say it to you right now, Here's all these sheikhs. And they're not gonna buy this, we're all in this spaceship Earth together, no passengers. So I, from the bottom of my heart, you know, again, the boss tells me what to say sometimes when I'm up on those stages. And there's 5, and when you go to my webpage, you'll see this picture of these sheikhs. 5,000 of them. So here's what I did. And I'm gonna ask you to help me now do it too. I finally looked at them and I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to stand up. Told 5,000 sheikhs to stand up. Jack Welch was in the green room. He said, I thought you were going to get killed. So anyway, would you do me a favor and stand up? I want you to take the arm of the person on either side of them. Okay? On either side. Reach across the aisle.
Here we go.
We can do this. All right? You meet some nice people this way. Okay. Now listen. What I said to them is what I say to you. Do you remember when you were a child? Do you remember when your mother said to you, we've got to hold hands and look both ways. Look both ways at each other. Because we, Dublin Chamber of Commerce, we are crossing the street together. You can let go now.